news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Good evening and welcome to ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I'm Saul Saenz. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us. Tonight, a special treat. You will get to meet and hear from a nationally renowned artist whose studio is in our very own backyard, one you can visit any week in San Elizario. Gaspar Enriquez was named the 2023-24 Texas State Artist by the Texas Commission of the Arts, joined by other such great names as singer Kelly Clarkson and Michael Ray Lewis. Enriquez was raised in El Segundo Barrio. The artist's pieces are known around the world and are featured in such distinguished museums as the National Portrait Gallery at the Smithsonian, the Tucson Museum of Art, and of course the El Paso Museum of Art. One of his large murals is featured at the San Antonio Convention Center. The Texas Commission of the Arts described his art as, quote, no matter their size, his powerful acrylic airbrush portraits reveal his subject's dignity and demand the viewer's attention. One of the most famous private collectors is none other than Cheech Marin. Please help me in welcoming Texas State artist Gaspar Enriquez. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
It's a pleasure to come and visit with you.
Yeah, and of course we're going to be sharing all of your pieces with our viewers. First of all, congratulations on being named Texas State Artist. That must be. How did you feel when you?
Well, actually, it was the legislature, Texas legislature, that made me Texas
through
Artist.
the Texas State Arts Commission, right?
Well, the Art Commission, but the legislature had to vote on it.
Yeah.
So,
Your thoughts? How did you get the news, and how do you feel?
Well, actually, I was painting.
Yeah.
And usually when I am painting, I don't answer my phone. But something told me that, well, it's from Texas, I guess. I'll go ahead and answer it. And so I answered, and then they told me that I was selected Texas Artist of the Year for 23-24.
How do you sleep after that? It's hard to sleep, right?
Yeah.
One of the questions that I have for you is that you're known as a Chicano artist, but your scope of work is much more broad than that, right?
Yes, I consider myself a Chicano artist. Like I quote, I was born a Mexican American, but I chose to be a Chicano.
Yeah.
But I don't like to be pigeonholed as just a Chicano artist. I'm an artist, period. Mm-hmm. Just like a lot of artists throughout the world are not identified as like Italian or British or
Irish
just,
or any of that.
You know, it's just a good artist.
Yeah, it's still a good thing that you're recognized as being, such an accomplished artist.
And a lot of the subjects I do is Chicanos.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, one of your best private collectors is Cheech Marin. How did you two meet, and how has the relationship between this private collector grown? How did you first meet Cheech Marin?
Well, let me tell you. I had an exhibition in San Antonio, and he was starting his first exhibition in San Antonio, and I got a call from this lady from the gallery, and asked me if I would sell Cheech some pieces that I had over there. And I said, well, I don't know. It depends on how much he wants to give me. So, but we worked that out.
And has that relationship grown? Because he is a private collector, meaning that he probably has a few more pieces than just one, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he comes over here. When I had my retrospective here in 2014, he came over for my retrospective, and we had a good time. We went out to eat and all that stuff. One of the times that he came out to eat, I took him to the Italian kitchen on Pershing.
Yes.
And we were sitting there and talking, and then we finished eating, and then a person came. Can I get a picture with you guys?
Yeah.
And I said, sure. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's down to earth. He's not pretentious or anything like that. So he did, and then a little while, another one, and then another one, and then the waiters and the waitresses, and then the kitchen came in to have their picture taken.
That's awesome.
That was
another portrait that caught my eye was the one of Natalicio, Dr. Diana Natalicio, the former UTEP president. Would you get the opportunity to meet her, and what was your inspiration for painting her?
I've met her a lot of times. I mean, we had become friends a long time ago. I went to her when I had a art organization, a Chicano art organization called Juntos Art Association. I went to her to point out that the student body at the art department was about 80-some-odd% of Hispanics, and yet they only have maybe one or maybe didn't have any faculty. So since then, we acquired a relationship, and she started putting a little bit more Hispanics in the faculty.
The portrait is just beautiful. I mean, it is a profile of Dr. Natalicio, but the moment that you capture the lighting and everything, it's very inspirational. What were your thoughts behind that when you painted it?
Well, I was going to paint the front of her face, but I just detected the profile was the best thing to do. And incidentally, that portrait is at the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C.
And the Smithsonian.
Yes.
That's just amazing. That's just amazing. I mean, looking at it, it looks actually like a photograph. It doesn't really look like a painting. I mean, you really capture her essence.
And I paint with an airbrush, by the way.
Yes, we're going to be talking about that. Right now, we're going to take a really quick break. But when we come back, we dive deeper into this famed artist's work, Gaspar Enriquez, and talk a little bit more about some of the Chicano art he's so well known for. You'll be surprised at where he got his inspiration. You're watching ABC Sunday Edition, ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition, where news comes first.
It's the Lazy Boy Inventory Overstock Sell-Off event. We're clearing everything out store-wide. Save up to 50% on closeouts, overstocks, and floor samples. Get our best offers on your favorite Lazy Boy furniture. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
The Sun Bowl cars are back at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso, and they're available direct to you for a limited time. Sun Bowl Elantras and Sonatas, Tucsons and Santa Fe's, even Palisades, fully stocked and fully equipped. All available with zero cash out of pocket. Interest rates as low as 0% APR, and payments as low as $289 a month on Sun Bowl Sonatas. And Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso is fully stocked today. The cars, crossovers, SUVs, and electric vehicles you want. The Sun Bowl cars are back at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso.
There's no better feeling than your mind being at peace.
But getting there can often feel impossible.
Simply because we allow stress to overwhelm us.
Never realizing that our mental health
is connected to our physical health,
which leads to the decay of our spirit.
When you believe in yourself, you're letting your body know that your mind is at peace.
So you behave in a way that creates positive change.
And you become the best version of yourself.
With this new year, reset.
Because mental health
is health.
The abuse started when I was 6. Father Resma would basically ask my parents to allow me to go see him privately to practice magic tricks. I remember his first move on me. I saw a story break out of Our Lady of Hell about a priest molesting children. And I knew at that point I had to speak up. Coming forward is a leap of faith.
It's the Lazy Boy Inventory Overstock Sell-Off event. We're clearing everything out store-wide. Save up to 50% on closeouts, overstocks, and floor samples. Get our best offers on your favorite Lazy Boy furniture. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I also want to welcome back my guest, Texas State artist Gaspar Enriquez. Thank you again for taking time from your busy Sunday to come and join us.
Thank you again.
Well, you are well known for your depiction of Chicano art. That you've been. This is one of the things that you really stand out for because of just how well you do it. But you have a really interesting story. You once taught at Bowie High School, and tell me about how some of the people that you used for that Chicano art.
Well, you know, I was born and raised in that Segundo Barrio area, and after living in California for 5 years and East Texas for another year. And then came back and finished school here. And then I started teaching at La Bowie
Yeah.
for 33 years. But all of my students were from the same neighborhood I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so I got to know who they were because they had the same problems that I used to have back then. 10 years have gone by, but it was still the same problems, same issues, you know, bigotry, gangs, violence, drugs, family. It was all the same. And so I started looking at them, and I got to know them fairly well because I had them in every day.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know, they're part of me. They're what I went through. So I started asking them if they would post for me. And what I wanted to do was give them a self-esteem to be proud of who they are, because you know they dress like cholos or different wardrobes, but they had to be proud of who they were. And when my work started going around, they would see it in the museums or galleries. And I had an exhibition. I just happened to have an exhibition here at the El Paso Museum of Art, and I did a series of called Generation of Attitudes, and it was the Pachuco, the Pachuca, the Tirilon, the Tirilona, the Cholo, and the Chola. And then the exhibition was there in the main foyer, and I took a whole class over there to see them, and I could see in their eyes their self-esteem, their proudness of who they really were. So I felt that I have achieved what I intended to do.
I think you did. There are two particular Mexican-American icons who you depicted in your work, author Rodolfo Anaya and farm worker union organizer Cesar Chavez. Did you meet either of the two?
Well,
That's a lot of history there.
A lot. I didn't get to meet Cesar Chavez, but I did get to meet and become good friends with Rodolfo Anaya.
Yeah.
And I illustrated a book for him called The Elegy of the Death of Cesar Chavez. And we became good friends, and the portrait gallery and the Smithsonian commissioned me to do a portrait of Rudy, Rodolfo Anaya. So I went to Albuquerque and made his portrait. And that's also at the portrait gallery.
It should be noted that, yes, you did Rudy, but Cesar Chavez, your portrait of him, you can see it just about everywhere. The way that you captured him as well. You even did one piece where he has workers surrounding him as well. That became iconic.
Yes, it was, well, he was kind of in the background, and they have a vigil for him.
Yes.
Yeah, that was...
that was very impressive. What inspired you to paint it in that way, where you have Cesar Chavez in the background, and you have all these workers with the candles up?
Well, it's a vigil, and actually that painting became very well known throughout the country because it was illustrated in books. It was used as a banner for marches and things like that. So I figured, well, it was just Rudy wrote this poem about the death of Cesar Chavez. And each poem, I depicted something from that poem, and I illustrated it in there. And that was one of them.
Translating words into art.
Right. So that was one, a visual of the death of Cesar Chavez.
That's beautiful, by the way. Now, you're recognized as a premier airbrush artist. Did you feel you were not getting the respect due that you really deserve, because people were saying, wait a minute, he's painting with an airbrush and not with, regular brush? Did you feel that at all, that you were getting any disrespect, or you weren't as acclaimed as you thought you ought to have been at the time that you were just using merely the airbrush?
Well, you know, airbrush is not easy to to do. Took a lot of years to handle it, but I wasn't really thinking of what other people thought. I just did it because I used to paint with oils.
Yep.
And I used to, with oils, it doesn't dry as quickly, and you can do some blending, you know, blending of different values. But I became allergic to the solvents.
Oh, I see.
So that's why I had to pick up something that would give me that feeling of blending.
Got it.
So the airbrush was what did it.
Yeah.
So
And obviously with the brush, you get the strokes in there as well. With the airbrush, you get the blending of shadows and whatnot, right?
right, yeah. Well, sometimes it all depends on how thick the oil paints are, but you can make it so that you can't see any brush strokes.
Got it. All right, we're going to take another quick break. You're watching ABC-7 National. When we come back, Gaspar Enriquez's body of work goes beyond Chicano art. We'll show you some of his pieces surrounding Mexican charros, as well as some of his sculptures. All that when we come back in our third and final segment. We'll be right back.
There are trucks, and then there's the GMC Sierra. Available with the connected driving experience. And the world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra. It's the truck. Or get $4,500 purchase cash on select GMC Sierra models.
See your El Paso Las Cruces GMC dealers.
You squeeze my lemons and you save my tree. You can't imagine what you're doing to me. You found the spark to reignite my fire. You are my single desire.
This Valentine's Day, let our gifts express how you feel. Shop local, shop fresh, shop chocolate.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These are the values we believe in for our family and the values we believe in for our clients. Wyatt Underwood, 485-9100.
Visit us online or call us today for a free consultation and approach your legal battle with confidence.
New year, need space? New Deal Furniture has too many clearance items and one-of-a-kind items. It's an evacuation sale. All older stock items must go. All bedrooms 50% off. Glam black or white. Regular $19.99, now $9.99. And a clearance mattress for $100. Any of these sofas $2.99. 5-piece counter dinette $2.99. Bring your truck. Bring your cash. Bring your mama. Even unreasonable offers will be accepted. New Deal Furniture, where the smart furniture buyers shop.
Welcome back to the third and final segment of ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I also want to welcome my guest, Gaspar Enriquez. Thank you so much, a Texas state artist. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. You've spent a lot of time with us, and you've enlightened us as to what it is, your thoughts that go into some of your work that you do. Now, you have a keen interest in depicting the charro, the Mexican charro. Few people know what a Mexican charro is. Give me your opinion of what it is and the way that you painted them.
Well, you know, I have worked with series. I usually work with series. And this series was charreadas. And I used to spend a lot of times in charreadas and admired the craftsmanship and the finesse of the charros, how they handle their work. And also las, I forgot their name.
The charras?
No.
Okay.
The girls that ride the horses in the elaborate dresses.
Yes.
Chamuscas, something like that. Anyway, I admire all their work, so I started painting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also take a big interest in folklorico. That some of the women that you painted are wearing the folkloric dresses too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know Rosa Guerrero, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows Rosa
Yes.
Guerrero, and she had her groups that would perform all over the place, and I would follow Rosa Guerrero and her groups everywhere she went, and so I started painting some of her dancers. There is one painting that is pretty well known, and it's called Proscrita.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this little girl by herself. She's trying to dance her steps, but she's alienated from the rest of the group. And it turns out that I didn't know who she was, but it turns out that she was the daughter of one of the teachers at Bowie.
Uh-huh.
And she is actually now a instructor at Berkeley.
Really?
Yeah.
For folklorico?
No, she teaches, what does she teach? She's medicinal
Okay.
purposes.
Yeah. But the fact that you're bringing the charro out for everyone to know who the charro is, I mean, obviously, a lot of people who don't know the difference, they look like a mariachi. But a charro is actually like a Mexican rodeo, right?
Yeah, he's a cowboy.
Yeah.
What they used to do, you know, he's a vaquero.
And not only do you paint, but I was able to see some of your sculptures that you have there in San Elizario. You're taking an interest in sculptures as well. And what motivated you to start putting together some sculptures? Because you have some really beautiful sculptures.
Which ones are you talking about?
Well, you're talking with the some that
La Pieta that I did?
Yes, con el corazón and all that.
Oh,
yes, yes, absolutely. The heart, I'm sorry, for translation purposes, the heart, yes.
Yeah, yeah. That one, that was, it's a big, that one.
Yes.
Okay, I did portraits of artists that I admire their work.
Yeah.
And I admire their perseverance. And so each of those paintings, like the one that I did for Luis Jimenez, that little heart, I did a little heart for him.
Yeah.
And that's the little heart right there.
That's beautiful.
That is for Luis Jimenez.
Yeah. Is that surrounded by bronze?
By bronze, yeah, and copper.
Did you cut that out yourself?
Oh, I did the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Well, my master's is in metals.
Right.
So
that's what you. That's at New Mexico State University, right?
And MSU, yes, correct.
Right. That's just amazing. I love it. Now, are there any other pieces that you're currently working on that are in the process that we can obviously be waiting for?
Well, I'm working on some other artists that I have known. This one happens to have passed away from diabetes. So that's one of the paintings that I'm making another chola. But I saw that you had the piece there of the altar piece that I have.
Yes.
And that's called Mi Vida Loca. No, it's called La Rosa Dolorosa de Mi Vida Loca.
Which translates to The Painful Life and My Crazy Life?
Yes.
Okay. Got
exactly.
it. I just want to make sure I got it right.
Good translation. Yeah. But that one I did for the senseless violence in the barrio.
Yeah.
You know, it's this friend of mine, they used to live in the same neighborhood that I used to live, wrote a poem for that piece. It is and every time, he passed away some time ago, but every time he read it, it just brought tears to my eyes.
Wow, really moved you.
It's a very moving poem.
One of the questions that I know a lot of folks at home who are watching right now, who are obviously admiring your work, because it is very impressive. You have an impressive scope body of art. Why did you pick San Elizario?
It's a long story.
We have 2 minutes.
Do you have another?
I have 2 minutes.
You have to have 3 hours. It's a very old town, and my late wife's ancestors used to live there, And we moved there after we moved from East Texas, we moved there. And so, in a nutshell, that's how we wind up there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very fortunate because that means that all of us can come out and visit, not only visit your gallery and working studio, but we get to meet you.
Yeah.
Right? And I know because I've been there, you're very approachable, you're willing to talk to people. That's admirable. That really is. That really is.
Well, and you can see the buildings that I have restored as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to restore them because I'm interested in the history.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully our folks will come out and visit you very soon. Gaspar's Gallery and Working Studio, again, is just a short distance away from El Paso and San Elizario. I want to thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. I really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. I'm Saul Saenz, and this has been ABC-7 Extra. Good night y buenas noches.
Buenas noches.